Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football. We've got your Week 16 Round 2 of the Fantasy Playoffs for the wide receiver edition. Now, again, this is always based off of full PPR and half PPR. If it's standard, we might have some different suggestions for you guys based off of that. But again, full PPR and half PPR. Now, these are your obvious starts at the wide receiver position that we recommend. No matter what the situation is, they are either the top receiver in their team or they've got a really good matchup that I believe you should just be starting anyways. Now, of course, if you guys do have questions of who you should start or sit, hit us in the comments down below. That's what we're here for. We're going to help give you the best advice we possibly can. Ultimately, it's your decision, but we do want to give you some stats to hopefully back up the right decision for you guys. Now, wide receiver is always the toughest, I think, position to put in your lineup. There are so many really good receivers, and you usually only have 2, maybe 3 slots for receivers and then possibly a flex. So receivers always so hard, but because there are so many good ones, sometimes it is a little bit easier than, say, a running back. Running backs are pretty much clear-cut. Tight ends, obviously very clear-cut. It's Travis Kelce or nothing else. But wide receiver is a little challenging. Now, the first receiver I'm going to recommend is Deontay Johnson versus the Raiders. Kenny Pickett is expected to be back. Not Mitch Trubisky, even though I think Trubisky still helped add value to Deontay. He had 10 receptions last week, which obviously it's not the biggest game for him, but hey, PPR, I don't care how many touchdowns or no touchdowns you have. As long as you have 10 plus receptions, that is a good game for me. Now, Deontay is seeing an average of 9 targets a game the last 4 games, so that's always a big play as well. Raiders do allow an average of 15 points to wide receivers the last 4 games, which is a little bit tougher. It's not the best matchup, but I do like this game. This is a Saturday night game for Christmas Eve. Obviously, unfortunately, with the news of Franco Harris, it's kind of sad because this was the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Catch. So condolences out to him, his family, and Steeler Nation. So I'm sorry to hear that for you guys. But I do like this matchup for Deontay. I think this is a really good one. You could possibly put Pickens in because, again, Pickens and Pickett always have a good rapport, but Pickens is a really stretch at this point. I do like Deontay a lot more. Now, another receiver I recommend this week is going to be DJ Moore versus the Lions. Lions allow the most receiving yards to receivers, period. They don't play defense very well. They're allowing 40.6 points combined to receivers. Moore had a great game last weekend with 18 points in fantasy, had 5 receptions and a touchdown. And I can see a very similar aspect of 6 receptions or so around that aspect of 70 to 80 yards. Again, a nice 14 to 15 point game. So he's a really nice flex for you guys this week. And with Sam Darnold in at quarterback, I actually like a better option. Him and DJ Moore have got a really good rapport together. They did really well last year when Sam Darnold was on his little hot streak. So I like him this week as well. And again, DJ Moore's stock grows when Darnold is in at quarterback. This is a game that both Panthers and Lions really need. They're fighting for the playoffs. It's a stretch for some of these guys, but they are fighting for the playoffs. There's going to be a lot of high offense from the Lions. The Panthers have to try to keep up, which I think is why DJ Moore is, I think, a good start for you guys. Now, another receiver I like this week is Christian Watson versus the Dolphins. Miami allows 33.9 points combined to receivers in points. They're also allowing 160 yards as well. Watson saw the most targets in the last game, even with Romeo Doubs back in. Doubs was second in receiving targets. So again, Christian Watson is looking like the wide receiver 1. Doubs is another good one. And then, of course, Lazard, who unfortunately struggled, only putting up 2 points, I think, last week. I really thought Lazard was going to be a good one, but unfortunately, Doubs and Watson are really the guys for Aaron Rodgers, and he's feeling really good about Christian Watson. There was that little joke at the end of the game because they did get the win, but Christian Watson, obviously the communication wasn't there, should have had a touchdown at the end, which would have given him even more points. He only put up 8 points this past weekend, but he would have had obviously more. So I do like him this week. I don't think that's going to have an issue. They have to obviously win this game to try to be in the playoffs. So this is going to be a nice little fun game between the Packers and Dolphins allow a good amount of offense against them. Their defense is really poor. Xavier Howard has not been his usual self, shutting down receivers. So I like Christian Watson as a nice little start. Now, as far as my first sit, I've got Christian Kirk versus the Jets. You could also say Zay Jones as well. It all depends on where these receivers play. Kirk typically plays the slot, but he can play on the outside. Whoever is being covered by Sauce Gardner, which could be both of them, so be aware of that. Sauce Gardner is a phenomenal cornerback and probably defensive rookie of the year at this point, the way he is playing. The Jets have done a really good job holding receivers, only to 11.7 points a game. Just held Amon-Ra to 15 points. The week before that, Stephon Diggs to 6 points. So it's a really tough one. I know a lot of people want to start Zay Jones, and he's a nice little flex. Do not expect the same performance he did last week. Kelvin Joseph for the Cowboys just let Zay just rip it and have a great game. This is not that defense. The cornerbacks are better. Again, if Zay is covered by Sauce, he's an absolute stud. Or if Christian Kirk is covered by Sauce. So again, Gardner is so good at his position. I'm worried about both of these receivers. Another receiver I'm concerned with this week is T. Higgins versus the Patriots. Patriots hold receivers to 146 yards combined. Recently holding receivers like Devontae Adams to 6 points, Marquise Brown to 7 points. Higgins saved his game last week due to that touchdown. If he had not had that, he would just had an 8-point performance. So he didn't have a great game. That touchdown helped kind of get him to those double digits. Chase, obviously, I feel success happening in this one against the Patriots. Jamar Chase is by far the better receiver, a more targeted receiver. Higgins is still dealing with his hamstring injury, which could play a factor in this one. He played 80% of his snaps last week. Hopefully he can still keep that hamstring healthy, and he'll probably be very similar, 80 to 90% snaps. The reason why I picked Higgins over, say, Boyd, because you're probably not starting Boyd anyways, I'm just concerned with the hamstring if he tweaks it. And then on top of that, it's just, you look at when Chase is back in there, Chase really is the guy. Higgins will probably be in your lineup as a flex play, but I think if you have other options, because a lot of people have really good receivers on their team, I'm looking at sitting him for other players in there. And of course, hit us up in the comments. We'll help answer those questions for you. Now, the last receiver I'm looking at sitting is Chris Olave versus the Browns. Olave is dealing with an injury, obviously, and could miss this game. He missed practice. There's a good chance he doesn't play this game, so that's another reason why I've got him in this factor. But if he does play, there's a chance it could actually hurt him and tweak it in the middle of the game. So I'm worried about his snap counts. I'm worried about them utilizing him less in this game. Saints do need to win. Again, they're technically in the playoff hunt, so they do need to try to win. So they do need Olave there. But Browns also do a pretty good job against receivers, holding them to a combined 144 yards and 28 points together. So again, the matchup isn't great. Andy Dalton's no stud. But unless you have no other options, I'm sitting Olave. Now, a nice little sleeper you might want to consider is Richie James versus the Vikings. Vikings allowed the second most yards with over 200 receiving yards combined. Richie should see 6 to 8 targets in this game for the Giants. And again, they're trying to keep up for the playoff hunt. They're ahead right now in that wild card race, but you got to keep going. The Vikings allowed 20.7 points to receivers the last 4 games, which is huge. So again, if anybody's going to do it, it's Richie James. You might want to consider Hodgins, but I like James a lot better. He's got a better rapport with Daniel Jones, and they will have to pass to try to keep up with Minnesota. So I like Richie James as a nice little sleeper. So those are my start, sits, and sleepers for the wide receiver edition of Week 16, Round 2. If you guys do have questions, again, hit us up in the comments down below. If you haven't already, check out our start and sit video for running back and quarterback. That way you can help you guys with your lineups this week. If you guys did enjoy the content and you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that notification bell is on. It's greatly appreciated. And of course, hit the like button if you really did enjoy it and we're helpful for you guys. Hit us with the comments. We look forward to you guys obviously winning. We're looking for those comments to say thank you. Again, all the advice we try to give is as stat driven as possible. Always things can play a factor like weather and things like that. So stay tuned to those type of things. And again, make sure you check out our other start and sit videos. I'll check you guys out next time.